Hello, welcome to this video. I am a self-confessed muso, right? I love instrumental music. I like listening to the drums and the guitar. I like to listen to the virtuosity. I like listening to the emotion that's in the music, the hedonistic pleasure of music. That is what I like. But on this video, I'm going to argue that having a disposition towards that does tend to make you lyric blind. By lyric blind, I mean that you can't actually hear the lyrics. That musicians, in their training and the way they listen to music, their psychological intention when they listen to music has been refocused onto the music, and it blocks out the lyrics and their meaning. I noticed this when I was quite young, talking to many musicians, that if you mention the lyrics, virtuoso musicians would turn around and say, well, I have real difficulty understanding what they're saying. I can't hear what they're saying. I thought, that's really weird, because the general public will go out and they'll go to a nightclub and a song will come on and they feel the lyrics. Do musos not feel the lyrics? Do they not perceive them in a way that the normal general public does? And does that put them at a disadvantage? This is a really interesting line of argument to pursue, and I will do it on this video. So, back in 1980, I was 12 years old, and in February 1980, a single came out by the band Rainbow. I was very interested in music. I was interested in drumming. I was interested in playing the guitar. And this band came out and I heard Rainbow all night long, and in that riff and in Ritchie Blackmore's guitar solo and Cozy Powell with his great big silver drum kit and his studded wristbands and Ritchie Blackmore all dressed in black, I thought this was the coolest thing on the planet. And to me, this record sounded unlike any other record. And at the time, I was reading a comic called Lookin', and Lookin' had a piece on the new music sort of form that had emerged in the UK that year, which was the new wave of British heavy metal. And it sort of was a potted history of heavy metal. Rainbow were in this essay that I read, article that I read, and I found out that they come out of a band called Deep Purple, and there was a band called White Snake that had always come out of Deep Purple, and then White Snake came out with a single, Fall for Your Lovin', and I got drawn into that. All Night Long is a very, very important song for me. I loved it as a kid, right? Many years later, I decided to put it on. And this is after I'd gone through a journey with the music that I'd realised that I was lyric blind. I realised that I had difficulty focusing on lyrics. And this placed me at a disadvantage as a musician, and I'll get into why that is on this video. But many years later, when I'd refocused my sort of cognitive perception to be able to hear what the lyrics are about, I put All Night Long, I think, came on the radio, and it came on and I thought, oh, I love this. This is great. Cozy Power. And then you got those lovely harmony notes. All night long. And it's, oh yes, I want to love you all night long. And I'm thinking there, he wants to love them all night long, not all his lifetime. This is not a song about love. It's not pledging love to a person. This is just a song about loving someone just all night long. Oh, that's really weird. Anyway, I've got the lyrics here for All Night Long, and I'm going to go through them with you, and you can decide whether me as a 12-year-old, you know, why did I not take in the lyrics? It might be because I was 12 years old and I just didn't understand what was here and what they're singing about. But these are some of the most appalling lyrics in music history. I'm going to go through them with you. So he starts off, Graham Barnett starts up and he says, "You're walking up with your eyes on me." That's a bad sentence. You're walking up. Up what? Up the wall? You're walking up with your eyes on me. It's looking good, but I just don't know. What's it's? Is he referring to this person as an it? You're walking up with your eyes on me. It's looking good, but I just don't know. What doesn't he know? Right, and then he makes a statement of intention. So what, Graham Bonnet, what's your statement of intention? He says, I need a girl who can keep her head all night long. that what he doesn't know about? He's looking at this girl that's, you know, can she keep her head all night long? So what's he about to do with this girl? Maybe he's going to go on some sort of adventure and it's going to be very stressful. There's going to be a lot of concentration required. Maybe he needs to defuse a bomb or something like that, and he needs a girl helper, and he needs her to not get stressed or panicky. Maybe that's what this is about. He's going to be defusing a bomb all night long. I don't know. And then he says, you didn't come just to see the show. This girl's got evil intents, it sounds like. I guess you know what you want to see. The way you smile lets me know I can't go wrong. Right, so this is an ode to a rock star in a band eyeing up some girl and knowing he's in there, because it's an awful misogynistic song about a horrible power dynamic between this guy and this girl who's come to you know, see them play live, and he's felt this was a good subject for their single, right? Graham Bonnet has. Then the pre-chorus comes in and he goes, I want to touch you, I want to feel you, I want to make you mine. That's the pre-chorus, right? Now, of course, this sort of singing, this really comes from the blues. You're allowed to do this because the blues explore these sort of predaty, sexual, dark things. So maybe we can, you know, apologise for the lyrical content with that. And then the chorus comes in. The chorus goes, I want to love you all night long. I want to be with you all night long. I want to love you all night long. I want to be with you all night long. So we know where Graham's coming from. Then we get verse 2. Don't worry, there's only 2 verses to this song. So verse 2. I saw you standing down by the stage, your black stockings and your see-through dress. Your mouth is open, but I don't want to hear you say good night. Right? So now we definitely know what his intent is. He's not diffusing bombs on this, is he? This girl's turned up, you know, dressed in a provocative manner, and he likes what he sees. And then we get the worst lyric in music history, or amongst one of the worst lyrics. And I'm not going to give any extra meaning to this final lyric of this song. You can just take it in for the awfulness that it is. And it goes like this. You're sort of young, but you're over age. I don't care, because I like your style. I don't know about your brain, but you look all right. I'll read that again. It's a shocking lyric. You're sort of young, but you're over age. I don't care, because I like your style. I don't know about your brain, but you look all right. Right? All Night Long is musically brilliant. It launched me on this journey into music. But lyrically, it is awful. It is trash. Right? Me as a burgeoning musician, I wasn't interested in the meaning of this song. And I wouldn't have understood the meaning of this song. I wouldn't have understood how morally corrupt this lyric is. I wouldn't have been able to question the idea of this being a single and being played on the radio, and the effect it would have on people listening to it, you know, the sorts of bad ideas. Now, I am quite a libertarian, and I believe that people should be able to say what they want and do what they want. Now, the reason I believe they should be able to do that, because I also think it's good to have the freedom of speech for being able to counter that. I wouldn't ban this. I wouldn't say it's, you know, we shouldn't have it and people shouldn't listen to it. But I believe that I should be able to offer a counter-narrative that really shows that this is pretty wretched lyrically. Does this enhance the song in any way? No, I don't think. You know, it's like Lionel Richie also did a song called All Night Long, and I'm sure his lyrics will not be exploring the awful things that are in this. I don't know what Lionel Richie's singing about there. Anyway, we will not get bogged down with Lionel Richie. Let's not do that. Right, so this song took me on a journey. I started to listen to music and I was focused on the drums and the guitar, especially the drums, because I was listening to the drums. And I started to explore more heavier music, more virtuoso music, more expressive music, musicians that were doing interesting things. And I spent hours and hours trying to work out what the drum parts were on records, trying to work out what Billy Cobham was doing, you know, what was that time signature and all that type of thing. And I became very aware that when I was with my friends and they were listening to certain records and they were commenting on the lyrics, I could not actually really understand what they were saying. And I realised that my focus had been drawn onto the musical aspects at the expense of the lyrics. Now, as I started to work in the industry, I eventually became a dance music producer, and we were trying to write records that normal people liked. I wasn't making jazz fusion or prog. I was making, you know, sort of, I would say pop music, nice dance beat, hooky riff, and then you have that vocal hook in there. And I started to think about it. I thought, all these records are coming out and they all sound the same. It's like we all know how to make a house record or a dance record. We know what it is. You can sample it, you can get exactly the same sound. So what is making these records successful and making other records not as successful? And I thought, well, it's got to be that vocal hook. It's got to be the hook. Everyone says it's the hook. And I thought, well, the hook must be melodically the thing that is pulling them in. Then I would start to listen to the hooks that were really big in dance music. And I thought, well, these are terrible. You know, I can remember a track came out and it went, do you really like it? Do you think it's wicked? I'm loving it, loving it, loving it, loving it like that. And that was a big hit. And I was thinking, my God, but there's nothing melodically. So why is this a hit? And the next record isn't. And I realised it was the lyric. Right? And that do you really like it works because it's asking a question. So if you're dancing in a nightclub and you're enjoying yourself and that record comes on and they go, do you really like it? Do you think it's wicked? The audience are forced to having a good time. They're like cajoled by the artist who is asking them the question, and he's using that sort of gospel preacher question and answer trope, which is so important to hit records, because then they can answer, we're loving it, loving it, loving it, loving it like this. Right? The lyrics were so important. If that was going, what could it be saying? I've got a new lawnmower, I'm mowing it using it to mow my lawn. It's cutting it, it's cutting it, it's cutting it, it's cutting it like this. Right, I've changed the lyric and then suddenly you realise that the song is completely destroyed. It's not about the beat, it's not about the melody. Hit records happen because of the lyrics. And when somebody can write something that, like I Will Survive or Angels by Robbie Williams, that has a message that touches people, it moves people and it sells records. And I suddenly realised, here I am, I haven't got any idea about this. I'm just a musician trying to make music. I don't understand how this works. And I started to say this to other musicians around me, what about this? What about that? With the lyrics on here, what they're saying here. And I realised that a lot of the real credible musicians I knew were just lyric blind. Okay? Now, as a muso, you do your research and you learn about Weather Report and, you've been Return to Forever and the Yellow Jackets and Steely Dan, all these muso bands, right? And I've gone into this on another video. When I bought Asia by Steely Dan, it was a great album, but it was no greater than a Larry Carlton album or a Lee Ritenour album that I'd got. It sounded, what was everyone going on about this? You know why? Because the X factor for Steely Dan is not the music. That is like sort of LA, very well written, beautifully written, but it's sort of your standard sort of late 70s session musician music. That's what it is. Sorry, but that's what it is. The thing that makes Steely Dan so great is the sort of, post-1950s, post-ironic sort of dodgy, seedy subject matter of their songs. And that acts as an antithesis that makes Steely Dan truly great. It's in the lyrics. And when I did my criticism of Steely Dan and people said that in the comments, I thought, I really should have mentioned this. The thing that makes Steely Dan one of the great bands, is the lyrics. Again, it's not the music. It's not the music. You take the lyrics off, take the singing off, and you've got a Larry Carlton album. Very good Larry Carlton album, but that's what you've basically got, especially later on. So, in exploring all these bands, you know, there's something about like Steely. I didn't really get Steely Dan because I don't think I was taken in the lyrics. And then I read about Joni Mitchell, and Joni Mitchell had got this band with like Michael Brecker, Jaco Pastorius, Pat Metheny, Lyle Mays. This was like a jazz rock supergroup, and it was a big album. It was a sort of a pop album, and that album was with Shadows in Light, and everyone was raging about it. And I also read about Hejira, so I went and bought those albums, and I can remember putting Hejira on, and I had it in the car. I was quite old at the time. I was a sophisticated listener. And I didn't get it. I didn't like it. I didn't like Joni Mitchell. I didn't like her. I didn't understand it. Some good playing on it, but it wasn't the Mavish Nux. It wasn't Weather Report. I didn't get it. And I drove around knowing I was wrong. Everyone says this is great. Why don't you get it? I mean, the playing's nice, but I don't get it. I just absolutely don't get it. And I was quite perturbed by this. I went out and bought a DVD of Joni Mitchell, and it was a biographical DVD, and it told a story. I really want to understand what this woman was trying to do because I didn't get it. And on that, it told the story of Joni Mitchell, how Joni Mitchell was a folk singer. She also grew up listening to a lot of sort of vocal music, lot of sort of like Lambert Hendricks and Ross and Ella Fitzgerald. She comes into the sort of burgeoning folk scene in America, which is coming out of Bob Dylan, and she forms with her new boyfriend a sort of a folk duo, which is not a groundbreaking. It's very much sort of the middle of the road folk duo. She then gets pregnant, and they decide to give the baby away, and this baby is adopted out. She loses this baby, and the guy leaves her. And she is thrown into this sort of existential angst. And she takes the songwriting and she starts to bare her soul in a way that nobody had before. Okay? And I found this story very moving. And it was like she was rootless. She couldn't settle. She in her personality, I think, expressed a feeling, existential angst, which was key to the 1960s, and she expressed it more than anyone, and she expressed it in a way which was so truthful, right? And so I understood this, like this story of this documentary that was told, and when she was a relatively old lady, she'd finally got back in touch with this daughter, and she'd become got a relationship with her, and I noticed at that point the music stopped. She would make, sing her old songs. She would redo her song, but the songwriting stopped. The incredible songwriting was a product of this pain and hurt that she had to express, and she expressed specific aspects about it. In my study of Joni Mitchell, it informed a lot of the stuff I talk about on Philosophy Sundays, right? But that's not how I got it. I then went out and bought Blue, which is one of the greatest albums ever made. And there is a tune on that called Little Green. And I am now going to go through the lyrics of that. So, this was not like Hejira. It was a very stripped down, beautiful acoustic guitar song. And I'm a sucker for beautiful acoustic guitar. I can listen to that all day. Fingerpick, she's a monster guitarist, a monster pianist. As well as being an incredible singer and songwriter. And Little Green starts up, and I know the story of Joni Mitchell, and the lyrics go like this. So she says, born with the moon in Cancer, choose her a name she will answer to. So in those first lessons, she loads this with meaning. She says that the baby's been born. She said what time of the year they've been born. And then they've said this thing that people then, as soon as somebody's born, you have to give them a name. Right, because they've got to answer to something. This is a very Joni thing. The first line is very ethereal. The second line is just very practical. She's introduced those two ideas straight off. And then she says, call her green and the winters cannot fade her. Call her green for the children who have made her. Right, so they're going to call this girl Green. And they're going to call it because in that name, the name is the only thing that Joni can give this daughter, because she's about to give her away. The only thing she can give her is the name. She's called Green. And that will sort of protect her, because when the winter comes along, right, you know, it's the promise of spring. It's the idea of hope. But it also describes and sends a message to this child that goes, why do they call me green? Maybe the parents are green, as in the meaning of being, you know, young and naive. We're 4 sentences in, and she has said so much in those 4 sentences. Then she says, little green, be a gypsy dancer. Right? Little green, this little baby, you know. And she's wishing her to become a gypsy, you know, to travel and to appreciate music, which is what Joni is. Then she tells a story of her boyfriend. He went to California hearing that everything is warmer there. So you write him a letter and say her eyes are blue. He sends you a poem and she's lost to you. This is talking about the sort of, it's almost like critiquing that 1960s idea of the you know, tortured artist, this expressive person. And this person, he doesn't want to be where the cold is. He wants to be where the warm is. But they're in a situation that's cold. This idea of winter and summer not only goes through this song, but it goes through so many of Joni Mitchell's songs. So many. And she uses that as a metaphor. And they are in a winter here, and he's going to leave her in the winter because he's going to go off to California, but it's all okay because he writes a poem, right? And then she tells Little Green, she says, Little Green, he's a non-conformer. That's the problem. He's a non-conformer. I don't have to conform to these rules. I don't have to, you know, be a dad. I don't have to look. I've got to express myself. The Nietzschean expression of the self at all costs, right? She's critiquing this right at the point where 1970-71, when this album's made, that the cracks are beginning to show the whole hippie dream. Just a little green, like the colour when the spring is born. So she brings this idea of spring is born. And then she said, there'll be crocuses to bring to school tomorrow. That's in the future. That's what this wishing hope, it's wishing a spring on this. She knows that in the future, this girl will be going to school. She will be walking to school in the spring. Everything will be okay. She will pick the crocuses up, the symbol of rebirth, the symbol of hope, and she will take him to school. It's a protection. This name, Little Green, is acting as a protection. It's all that she can give her. Just a little green, like the nights when the northern lights perform. Right, we're back to the winter now. Right, the beauty that's in the winter. Right, there'll be icicles and birthday clothes. So in the winter it will still be okay for this girl. There'll be icicles, there'll be the northern lights. The winter will be okay. You will get through the winter. And then she says, and then sometimes there'll be sorrow. This is really powerful. We get the last verse now. A child with a child pretending. Right, she is now talking about herself. She has talked about the child. She has talked about the dad. Now she's talking about herself. A child with a child pretending. Weary of lies you are sending home. Right, they have this idea. She has this idea she's going to look after this baby. She knows she's not going to look after this baby. So you sign all the papers in the family name. You're sad and you're sorry, but you're not ashamed. Little Green, have a happy ending. Right? This is believably truthful. And when I heard this, it hit me. And I went round to my friend's house and I said, have you ever heard Little Green by Joni Mitchell? And we put this record on, and around my friend's house, I burst out crying. It really hit me, the meaning of this, and the fact that when she'd written this, she had lost that daughter. Years later, her whole career in a way was trying to explain this thing that she'd done. And it wasn't that she regretted it, she knew she had to do it, but it was still painful nonetheless. In this short little song, she had explained so much about humanity, and she'd explained so much about herself. She had talked on a level that was as high as anything spiritually, but she'd also talked like, the lyrics sound like someone having a conversation with you. That impressed me. So then I go back to Hejira, and I realise Hejira, the lyrical matter, was even more complex than this. It required work. It required work in the same way that it requires work to work out chord progressions. That this was high-level music, you know. And then I thought, Joni Mitchell's this massively successful artist, so people out there must respond. There's a lot of people who actually respond to this. Okay? Now, I want to finish up this video by mentioning a couple of things and why this is important, especially to any musicians or artists watching this video. In 2005, I got booked on a clinic tour with the drummer Kenny Aronoff. Kenny's an incredible drummer, virtuoso drummer. You know, he's an incredible reader, he's incredible technically, he's got an incredible groove. And he's one of the most in-demand session drummers in the world. He's played with everybody from Meatloaf to Leonard Bernstein to John Bon Jovi to B.B. King. If you've heard Blaze of Glory by John Bon Jovi, that's Kenny. If you listen to I Could Do Anything for Love by Meatloaf, that's Kenny. And if you've ever marvelled by that incredible drum fill in Jack and Diane by John Cougar Mellencamp, you know, a #1 record in the States, which features as its middle this incredible fill by Kenny. So Kenny is a legendary session drummer. He gets the work. And of course, me spending the week with him, I would pummel him to try and find what the secret is of being a great session drummer. So I sat down with Kenny and said, you know, what advice would you give me if I'm on a session? And it was not what I expected. He said to me, he goes, when you turn up to a recording studio, it's like a film set. He said, the artist you're working for, John Bon Jovi, they're the star of the film. He said, the producer is the director of the film. He said, the song is the script. The recording studio, that's the cameras and the lighting. And he said, so who are you? In this situation, who are you? And what you are is a character actor. You're an actor, a supporting actor in that scene. So the question you need to ask yourself is, what character are you? And the only way to find that out is to sit and listen to the lyrics and study the lyrics. And once you study the lyrics, you can then establish what character you are. Are you in Goodfellas? Or are you in The Breakfast Club? You know, are you in Easy Rider? You know, or are you in Lord of the Rings? And that gives you an idea. Now, to express those ideas is very difficult, and that's the job. That's what you're getting paid for. But you're the artist, the songwriter, and in many cases on sessions, when you turn up, the singer is not the songwriter. They haven't written the scripts. They aren't an auteur like Joni Mitchell that's in control of the whole thing. The singer's the star up front singing it. And someone else has written the song, and they may have demoed that song. It may be a song about some teenage girl hanging out in a local, you know, coffee shop and seeing a boy she likes, but it's been written by some guy who's like 50 years old, and he's singing it. And there's maybe a piano, an acoustic guitar, scratch track, you know, a click, and him singing these lyrics. And so you have to imagine. And so you go, well, what film are we in? What film are we in here? We're in American Graffiti, aren't we? It's rock and roll. So maybe I'm going to take a rock and roll aspect, and you know, and then when you put that down, that then you are creating a character which the director can go, oh, I see that's that character. He's like this, and he does this, and he does that. And this is where musicians influence the arrangement in the studio. This happens all the time. And if it's really great, it should be related to the lyrics, to the meaning of the song. And I've tried to explain to you how coming up with that idea with this song about this teenage girl who's in a coffee shop, that let's go for American. So I'm not going to do like this beat. I'm not going to be fucked. I'm going to go, but get. You try that out, and then people are reaching for a flavour, and the music should be trying to explain the flavour. You know, the songwriting should complement the lyrics. Recently, I interviewed Michael Verseglia, the incredible bass player with Suzanne Vega, who's also earned his living playing on songs. You know, he's a virtuoso musician that came up through the fusion period. He can play a million notes, but he made his living by playing for Suzanne Vega. And I said to him, you know, what was your approach? And he also said, first thing you do is sit down and go through the lyrics with the artist. So, if you're watching this video, I hope you've enjoyed this little video where I've explored this idea of lyric blindness, and I hope it's given you the impetus if you do feel like that. And I know a lot of people who watch this channel who love the Mavish, Nuxia and Weatherport. We love the music, you know, but you know, buy an album that you wouldn't expect. Go and buy a Leonard Cohen album, or Tim Hardin, or go and buy Crosby, Stills and Nash, or Joni Mitchell, or Kate Bush, and sit down with the lyrics and do the research and see what you get out of it. You never know. It might open up a whole new world of music to you. If you like this video, press like. If you want to subscribe. If you want to support me, my Patreon is down below. And if you don't want to become a patron and you just want to stick a bit of a donation to support me making these videos, I have a PayPal tip jar link down below as well. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next video.